Hi, it's Christina with Cemetery of Choice. Today is August 8th, and the anniversary we're looking at is a safe and legal abortion in California in 1975. A 29-year-old woman named Cheryl checked into Pacific Glen Hospital for what's called a saline abortion on August 6th. Now, saline abortion was when they used one of those ginormous amniocentesis needles to pull out as much amniotic fluid as possible, and then they would replace it with a strong salt solution that would really just kind of cause all of the baby's capillaries to burst. And nurses who dealt with these fetuses after they were expelled called them candy apple babies because it gave them this, they just had this bright red color from the skin being stripped away. So at any rate, Cheryl went in on August 6th to have this abortion. And afterward, she experienced some very heavy vaginal bleeding. So she was transferred to White Hospital on the evening of August 7th. And it's not clear why she was transferred to such a distant hospital. The ambulance drove past at least 3 other hospitals on the way there, including County USC Women's Hospital. That's something I'd love to learn more about. Like, share, subscribe, see if we can get me some money to do more research. So at the hospital, Cheryl continued to bleed profusely. She went into cardiac arrest twice. They removed the blood and fluids from her abdomen, but about an hour after midnight, staff couldn't detect any more blood pressure. They tried heart massage for about an hour and didn't get anywhere. She was pronounced dead at 12:30 a.m. on August 8th. And an autopsy revealed that her uterus had actually ruptured, just split open during the abortion, and that spilled all the uterine contents out into her abdomen. And she bled to death. Now, weirdly enough, the inquest into her death was supposedly delayed due to the suit filed against the hospital on behalf of Cheryl's 3 minor children. Now, that seems kind of odd because the suit was filed in 1978, nearly 2.5 years after Cheryl died. And 2 years after Cheryl's death, a woman named Jackie, also bled to death from a ruptured uterus caused by a saline abortion performed at Pacific Glen. Now, even taking what this must have been like for the baby out of the equation, saline abortion was a nightmarish experience for the woman. She feels her baby convulsing and dying inside her. And it was dangerous. Saline had become very popular in Japan immediately after World War II. But within the Japanese medical community, word spread quickly that it was problematic. Too many women were being injured and killed. Over 70 papers were published in the Japanese medical community reporting the hazards of saline abortions, including 60 maternal deaths. So the Japanese Obstetrical and Gynecological Society condemned the technique and it was abandoned. But at first, they kind of kept that word inside Japan. But then Western nations just embraced this abortion technique. So 2 Japanese doctors, Takashi Wagatsuma and Yukio Manabe, broke the silence. Wagatsuma wrote, quote, "It is, I think, worthwhile to report its rather disastrous consequences, which we experienced in Japan." Manabe wrote, "It is now known that any solution placed within the uterus can be absorbed rather rapidly into the general circulation through the vascular system of the uterus and placenta. Thus, any solution used in the uterus for abortion must be absolutely safe even if given by direct intravenous injection. A solution deadly to the fetus may be equally toxic and dangerous to the mother. In spite of accumulating undesirable reports, the use of hypertonic saline for abortion is still advocated and used in the United States and Great Britain. I would like to call attention to the danger of the method and would predict future occurrence of deaths until this method is entirely forgotten in these countries." But the Western abortionists didn't pay any attention. I mean, finally, the Brits started to notice. A British study published in 1966 found that the saline can enter the mother's bloodstream and cause brain damage. Swedish researchers noticed an unacceptably high rate of complications and death. So in the late 1960s, Sweden and the Soviet Union abandoned the method. But American abortionists were just deaf to those warnings. When New York completely repealed its abortion law, doctors were allowed to pretty much do anything they wanted, and they were bringing women into their office, injecting the saline and just sending them home saying, okay, you're all done. You'll expel the dead fetus. Good luck with your life. This with a method that was risky even if performed in a hospital under medical supervision. So it's just appalling. And I wrote a lot about how American abortionists didn't really seem to care about the maternal deaths. There were two things that were happening that were making American abortionists move away from saline. One was that you had to wait until there was enough amniotic fluid that you could use the ultrasound guidance, get the needle in to get the fluid out. So there was this kind of gray period when the fetus was too big to just use a curette or a suction cannula and get the fetus out, but the uterus wasn't big enough to do saline. And every day that an abortion is delayed, there's a chance that the woman's going to change her mind. So if you want to sell that abortion, you need to be able to get her in as quickly as possible. And they didn't like this delay. Another thing was that because of carelessness, they were starting abortions that they thought were under 12 weeks and like, oops, this is a 14, 16, 18-week fetus. So that the D&E, dilation and evacuation technique that was developed was kind of an ad hoc method that they invented on the fly for when they were doing abortions and discovered that the fetus was a lot bigger than they had expected it to be. There was one other issue with saline abortions, and that was the dreaded complication. And the dreaded complication was not a dead mother, it was a live baby. Babies were being born alive and injured. And this causes major problems for the doctor or the clinic, the hospital. They get their butts sued off for this injured baby being born. So, switching over to the D&E got rid of the problem of live births. It was less risky to the mother, and it was a lot cheaper. You were not having to check the woman into the hospital for 2 or 3 days. You could just leave her in a motel room and swap out laminaria, little seaweed sticks, to dilate her cervix. So gradually, the saline installation abortions fell out of favor. Fortunately, I haven't seen a saline abortion death in a long time. And then here's the article about the malpractice suit delaying the inquest. Unfortunately, I can't link to Cemetery of Choice right now because it's still under reconstruction. But eventually you'll be able to get in there and you'll be able to find my original sources and learn a little bit more about this.